I actually like doing it this way. I feel like I get a chance to look at these a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the recording on so it doesn't get forgotten.
We're almost there.
Yeah. And I guess I'm gonna have to go get a notebook, because I can't get my computer to cooperate here.
There are a whole bunch of these. Oh, yeah. I think I'll do those after. It's 5:58. Gotta sign them in two places too, right?
Oh, really? I only got one.
Onto two different,
Well, there's two different,
yeah, one's for a referendum and one's for the meeting, right?
Yeah.
That's what I meant by
Two different-
two. That's what I meant.
there's
by
like,
two
so
different.
there's like 14 of them. Yeah.
Huh? So I put these out here in case someone comes in.
Oh, it's really strange, strange.
Okay, I'm joining now.
Okay, 6 o'clock. I'll call this select board meeting, select board for the town of South Thompson to order. Terry, I noticed that the agenda says Board of Selectmen. I think we were trying to get away from that. I don't know why that.
I don't know.
Copy and paste.
Probably. Probably said that for whatever.
Huh?
You want to say select board?
Oh, yeah, or
All right.
whatever, some gender.
Yeah.
Would be, we tried to do that, so.
Okay.
I just noticed that, or I would have said something earlier. I didn't,
It's
not
probably
try-
been
not
that
trying to
way.
embarrass you in public.
Probably been that way for a year, John.
I don't think so. Okay, anyways, yeah, topics is select board. Any adjustments to the agenda? Terry, I understand you have
Yes,
one?
it is. I would like to add, sorry, countersign the RSU 13 warrant and notice of election.
Okay, will you remind me at the,
Yep.
we'll make that number 7. Okay, is there any other adjustments, Jeff? Walter?
Nope.
Okay, I have none either as well. Public comment for items not on the agenda. We do have a few people in the audience. Just public comment for items not on the agenda. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. The bulk of this meeting, hopefully, is going to be dedicated to Article 4. And Brian, you and David, I assume, are here for the first item under Article 5. Is that correct, or are you just visiting?
I don't know what Article 5 is. If that has to do with the fire truck, then yes, that's why we're both here.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that's going to be brief, so I'm going to quickly take that out of order so you gentlemen can move on to whatever. So this article, actually Article 5 is reviewing the town meeting warrant. So, but I'm just going to take out of order the acquisition of fire trucks piece of that. So we have, I think, Terry sent out a final draft. I think we're hopefully good to go. It basically says to see if the town will authorize the selectmen to expend up to $850,000. That's correct, right? To purchase or
Yes.
lease purchase to purchase or lease purchase a new tanker fire engine and a new or used utility truck. Fund the expenditure substantially in accordance with the methods listed below. Issue bonds and notes and or execute a lease purchase agreement or agreements in an aggregate amount of debt principal not to exceed $483,683 for a term not exceeding 7 years. Reduce the amount of the aggregate amount of debt issued and or contemplated to be issued by any amount of grants, donations, or other funds that may be obtained for this purpose, and to negotiate other such terms and conditions as it is deemed advisable and necessary to complete the purchase and funding. And then it lays out the contemplated, at this point in time, funding plan, which is $354,882 from the fire reserve, which would be what we have on hand, plus what we anticipate the ambulance payments to be, repayments to be, and I believe next year's contribution to the reserve at $60,835. And then an FY24 appropriation of $60,835, which would, depending on the date, would either go towards the purchase or I guess into the reserve if the trucks still haven't been delivered by then. And then a bond note or lease purchase proceeds in the amount of $438,683. So comments, questions? Walter, I know you figured a payback on with the bond bank at 7 years. Or do you want to quickly go over that? Or?
Okay.
I haven't
Yeah,
looked at
yeah,
it.
it's what?
I haven't looked at it. That's why I'm asking.
7 years. The interest rate is up, I think, by as much as a point over the first iteration that we did, which was for the Fed stepped in and upped the rates. So if the principal is $438,683, we'd have interest payments of $34,348 for a total of $473,025 under the level debt scenario. And I also have, I think, I hope, a level principal scenario somewhere. So level principal, the principal payment every year would be 62,669, for a total of 438,683 with interest of 33,662.18 for a total of 472,345. So there's about $1,000 difference between the two scenarios with the current interest rates.
So the first payment is obviously bigger than the last payment.
Yep.
And not substantially though, is it?
No,
Yeah.
in neither scenario.
Yeah. I kind of like the level idea myself. It gets us into a budgeting routine. But, so 60,000, 67, call it 68,000 a year is about 8,000 more than we currently are contributing to the reserve. And it'll be, in some cases, 5 or 7 years out. So that seems to be manageable. Of course, there's nothing saying that when we actually execute this, which would be sometime well into the future, that these numbers are going to hold.
Yeah.
The interest rate, that is. So, Jeff, any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, and that seven-year kind of works out. And if you actually look at what we put to the reserves, it escalates every year. So I think that 68 is a pretty good number. And it puts us ahead at the end because we had, the thought process in the plan was 10 years and 10 years of saving, 10 years of paying for a 20-year replacement. And so that'll put us about 3 years ahead on the next buy.
Brian, any? I'm sorry.
I was going to
Yeah.
say, see if Brian's nodding in the right place there.
Any thoughts, Brian, or comments?
No, I understand what you guys are going for. We were talking last night, and David could probably clean this up better than I can. So if we're going to be making payments for 7 years, are we still putting money into the reserve at the same time?
Well, I think that was Jeff's point a second ago, but Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, no, I would not see us putting money into the reserves when we're doing the payment, but then we'll start saving again for the next one, right?
But that would only leave us 3 years to build up for a truck.
Oh,
Because every 10 years we replace.
Yeah,
a
you're
truck.
right. I was thinking it was 20 years, but 20 years is for each vehicle. There's another vehicle coming due in 10 years, right?
Yeah, the next one would be 2033, I think.
well, first of all, it probably won't be the decision of anybody sitting at this table what we put in the reserve. I can guarantee it won't be my decision at the end of 8 years. But I do think that it's important that we have at least a contemplated thought that our successors, and of course you always got town meeting's going to vote on this too, that our successors would have to decide upon. But so I don't know where this discussion goes. I mean, I
think $130,000 a year is a bridge too far.
yeah, I certainly don't see us putting in 60,000 in year one. But on the other hand, I see what you're saying. If the town chooses to purchase another truck 10 years from when these are purchased, if you don't put anything in during that time period, you've only got 3 years to put in what you want to put in. I guess maybe that's a decision that's going to have to be made by others going forward. But
Well, I understand what you guys are saying, but it just defeats the purpose of what we set up 10 years ago with the truck replacement plan. I mean, I don't see, and I'm just not gonna give fact numbers, but yeah, we don't put in 60,000, but what if we only put in 50,000 or 40,000? I'm not nailing us down to a number right now, but even if we put down a lower amount at the same time, come year 8 is when we could change the amount in the reserve to try to get us back on track. Because otherwise, we're going to be back in the same situation we were back in 2014. Now, mind you, like you guys are saying, yeah, you guys might not be on the board by then. David and I might not still be on the fire department by then either. But if we don't at least have a somewhat of a plan put together for guidance for the next administration on either side of it, we're kind of not helping out the town for the future.
Well, but, so, if you run the loan out for 7 years, so that debt would be paid off. In addition to that, the indebtedness that we have for the community's building will also be paid off, as will the borrowing for the ambulance. We'll have, all of the things being equal, as we stand right now, we'll have no debt at the end of 7 years. And hopefully interest rates will mitigate somewhat. So you're back to borrowing to make up the difference.
When you say community building, you're talking about
This building's
Right, yeah,
loan will
right,
be,
yeah.
will be amortized by that.
I know what you mean. I just wanted people to be clear that we weren't talking about Gilbert. whatever.
Right, so, we have very low leverage. I'm not advocating for going out to the capital market and borrowing at 5 or 10% right now, but we have, by that time, we'll have zero debt unless we have some other unexpected. So,
Yeah.
to me, not, that's not a bad plan.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't know if that satisfies you, but I think this is a discussion we'll have to take up when we prepare next year's budget. And get input. And, and if you get this grant, that changes everything. I mean, so, David, anything you wanted to add before we close this discussion?
Nope, I think I'm all set.
Two other. So Brian, what's the probability of there being substantive change in how fire services are delivered in the 4 or 5 towns around us? Because if I thought for 1 minute that would be a substantive change, then a lease return would be a viable option in that scenario, because then you're not saddled with a piece of equipment that may not be used in a reorganization. But I think you're going to tell me that probability is low.
It's up in the air, Walter. I can't predict the future, but this particular truck we're talking about, and if say tomorrow that all changed to what you're saying, this particular truck would not be obsolete.
Yeah, because it's water. Yeah,
Well, yeah, you have to look at the demographics of our area along with the entire county. Once you leave Rockland, Thomaston, Camden, and Rockport, you're out of hydrants. So, yeah. But
So, and everybody has a tanker truck in St. George and Cushing and Thomaston.
Thomaston does not, because they have a hydrant. Rockland doesn't. Rockport doesn't. Camden doesn't. We do. But I mean, majority of the county is a non-hydrant area. So tanker trucks, waters on wheels is the most important thing we need.
Okay. After firefighters.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not only that, it would be new, so I would assume that even if there was some sort of successor regional entity, they would want to keep the newer, higher technology, whatever equipment. That's just an assumption I make, but.
So I have one other question. Do we need a treasurer's statement? Or we're not doing we do?
We do. Well,
Not here.
no, we don't need it now, because we're not actually doing the borrowing.
Right,
When we
okay.
borrow.
So town meeting doesn't need to see a treasurer's
Yeah,
statement.
I mean, really, what town meeting, is doing is telling us to go ahead, and then we're relying that when we go back to them with the bond, that they'll keep their word and approve the bond.
Trust is a must.
So, okay, and then Brian, you had a question, on the, amount of, in the reserve. I would ask you to get with Terry on that. I think in that number that I threw out, I did not include the 60,000 that's contemplated to be approved at this upcoming town meeting. And I'm wondering if in your mind, you were including that.
It seemed low, and Terry confirmed it that is the number, but that would make sense why, in my mind, that it's low is because this year's contribution isn't there yet.
Right.
So-
And in the warrant article, those future contributions are contemplated in the number.
Okay,
Okay, so that's why they're different numbers, so to speak. One's at contemplated at time of purchase, and the other is what we have today. So,
we're just, the only reason I question also is the truck committee is trying to just finalize and touch up our PowerPoint. And that's one thing that we want in there, so.
yeah, but I would get with Terry and go over that if you need to.
Okay,
So we're not gonna vote on this at this point in time because I think we're gonna vote on the whole warrant, not this particular article. So we got nothing else. I'm gonna move on back to item 4, which is discussion regarding draft bylaws of library and community center and draft warrant. You're certainly welcome to stay, Brian and David, but don't feel that you need to. You're signing off, huh? Okay, so, two things. Penny called me and told me that she would not be able to make the meeting tonight because she had the library and is doing ballet class that had been scheduled. And she was apologetic about that, but, so I wanted to pass that on. The second thing is, I felt, well, the second thing is, Kristen supposedly is available if we need her. We can call her, or she can Zoom, we can text her and she can Zoom in if we need her. But I must say, I felt like we got thrown a little bit of a curveball here. We sat down with the facilities committee and kind of hashed this through, spent a couple hours of all our collective lives, and then boom. Why'd we do that? So, and I guess I wasn't particularly happy about that, but that's neither here nor there. I guess we gotta live with what we gotta live with. So I guess the purpose of tonight's meeting is to kind of review the changes that Kristen's firm is proposing, as well as to synchronize that with the comments and thoughts that we got from, or the discussion, the conversation that we had back on, was it the 4th now, April 4th? Excuse me. Kind of synchronize those. And actually, I think a couple of the proposals that Kristen's firm is proposing, if we accept them, it makes the conversation we had back on the 4th move. So, in a couple instances. So, so I don't know what the easiest way to do this. And I said to Walter earlier, I don't feel particularly well prepared for tonight's meeting. Because I didn't take the time to prepare. But why don't we just, if there's no objection, why don't we walk through Kristen's latest rendition? And then maybe, Gabe, I know you took some really good notes, or at least it looked like you were. Maybe as we do that, anybody can just chime in and say, well, we talked about this at the meeting. I have my notes, which are not real extensive, as well. I just jotted them in the margins. So is that an acceptable approach? Everybody?
Yeah,
Sure.
Good.
Yes, that you're good with that? Okay, so why don't we just start from the top? And again, I think we'll just move along unless somebody jumps in. Is that fair?
Yes.
In the name of moving along. So, anybody have any issues with number one? Article 1, number 1.
No.
No, it seems fine.
Anybody have any issues? Why don't we just, if you've got a question or a comment, jump in. If not, we'll just move. Number 2. Number 3. There was some discussion about the purpose on the meeting of the 4th. In my margin notes. But I think this changes what Kristen is proposing, may make that moot, I don't know. But
From what I remember, the discussion was that some people, both on the select board and on our committee, thought that there should be a mention of the newly constructed library and community center, but now that at least there is a reference to construction under number 4 there, so that addresses some of it. But there was a bit of a back and forth on that, and I don't believe there was clear consensus on what the comment from our committee was.
yeah, that's my recollection too. Sandy?
I mean, it's been divided up into number 2, let's see, it's in 3 and 4 in the new version, and which all looks very by the book, legalese kind of language, but basically the purpose is still the same as was originally written, that the organization shall be operated for charitable and educational purposes and for the construction of a new building, so to solicit. So I don't see that the content is any different. It seems like it's been put into some more legal terminology.
I don't see the word new in there, and I'm not sure I want to include the word new. And I'm not sure I did back when we had this conversation on the 4th. Because I do think personally there is, Article 10 did give us a slight escape hatch, if you will, if something changed. So, so I just bring that up to point out that I don't see the word new in there.
No, but in number 4, it does say at the very end to construct a library and to construct efforts to plan for and construct a library and community center. So that's pretty explicit right there.
I agree with that. I'm just pointing out, you used the word new, and I just wanted to point out that the word new is not in there. So, we good?
Yeah, I think I like that.
Like which?
I like the version that Emily, by the way, this was written by Emily White, who's their corporate expert, not Kristen. I think the amendment to Article 10 as amended refers to a significant change in circumstance.
Right.
And to me, that change of circumstance would have to go back, and either the articles of incorporation or the bylaws would have to be amended to account for that. And I don't think that possibility of that change in circumstance needs to be in here at all. Especially since it's in the warrant, or.
Yeah, and I agree. I like it the way it is. But again, I just wanted to make it clear. Jeff, you're good. Jeff's good. So we'll move
Yeah,
on.
I think we're okay with that.
All right. 5, when I use the number, I'm using the new numbers now.
Right.
5, 1. 5, 2. Okay, it's going well. 5, 3.
I'm gonna argue with that one.
5-4,
Hmm.
5-6,
5, 6.
Location. That one's not a big one.
the what?
I think, yeah, nothing on 5, 6.
It's not 5-6, it's back to just 6 now. That's an odd
Yeah,
way.
sorry, 6. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, 7. I think that was their attempt to make sure that we qualify for as a 501c3. Okay, 2. Basically, this, as I understand it, strips out the fact that it would be a membership corporation, which I personally wanted to see it as a membership corporation, but since it's not a hill to die on for me, and since the draft bylaws as originally proposed really had no purpose for the members, I'm okay with it. I still would, in a perfect world, I'd like to see it a membership corporation, but I don't want to complicate this.
I'm really happy with that. I said that to you already, John, but because I couldn't see the purpose of it, but I think it's a good change.
Yep, I'm happy with it also.
Yeah, I don't agree that it's a good change, but I'm willing to move on to Article 3.
I think it could always be, I mean, the bylaws can be amended. So if the board of directors devises a function for the idea of membership, it could always return. But I think
Yeah.
without having such a purpose at the start, I'm happier to see it not in there. For the
Okay.
for clarity's sake.
Jeff, Walter,
No, man, if I get 3 paragraphs from a lawyer telling me not to do something, I tend to agree with it.
Jeff, good? Okay. Article 3.
Okay, number 1.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
we did talk at the last meeting that the select board would choose 2 directors, the committee would choose 3. I mean, we talked of that as a potential change. And the director of the library, 1 + 1 select board member. I don't know if that's still an option that we are looking at.
Yeah, there was some, I think the other option that was floated that was an interesting one was the idea of a nominating committee that brought everybody to the table to make sure that the board of directors was not being sort of created in a manner that was siloed, but rather in a manner that was holistic with an eye towards creating something that would function.
Walter?
Yeah, the attorney that wrote this did not have the benefit of that discussion, so he was operating from the original
Yeah.
construct. So that's verbatim with that original construct, so we have the opportunity to change that if we wish, I think.
Yeah, and I would support that. I was gonna say the same thing, that this was, we did not convey throughout any of this, the discussion on the 4th to this attorney. We didn't even know this was in the works.
Right.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I think that the idea was that we would bring up things from the meeting as part of this review, in addition to just reviewing the changes.
So I personally am in favor of the flipping it, if you will. Let me see, so the number of directors shall be fixed by the board within the range set forth in the articles of incorporation. But I don't see where we've had that conversation about that but that's a sort of another aside, but be less than 3. Okay, as of the date of the adoption of bylaws, the minimum number of directors shall be 3, and the maximum on the board shall be 7. So I guess, are we okay with that first paragraph before we get to 1A? Okay,
Yep, that just says that you can't fire people on the sly by decreasing the number of of the board of directors. And
yeah, but
that sets the minimum and maximum. That's fine.
Yep.
make sure everybody knows that. I actually would like to see that change to 5, between 5 and 7. I just think 3 is getting awful too close to the vest. And I don't know how people feel about that, but
Hmm. I would sort of agree with you there, John. I think 3 might be put in there because you can't, if you don't have 3, you don't have, you don't have a board of directors. I mean, I think the idea is to have 7. I'm looking at the wording now to see. I mean, if you got 7 and 4 people resign or something, I mean, you have to have 3 in order to continue, but.
well, maybe we can revisit that in a minute after we have this related discussion regarding A. Is that fair?
Okay,
So then it says the incorporator, which is Kristen, shall, following the formation of the corporation, appoint 6 initial directors with staggered terms of 1 to 3 years. The incorporator shall designate at its discretion 3 such initial directors as nominated by the select board. I personally would like to change that to the library and facilities committee.
yes,
Sure.
Are we all good with that?
Yeah, I think it's easier just to change the number from 3 to 2 at this point and then change the other one from
2
2
to
to
3.
3,
Yeah.
rather than try to change the verbiage.
Yeah, that's fine. So are we,
yes,
make
Yes.
sure we're,
That seems good. I guess I don't want to throw a wrench in the works, but my question is, knowing that there will be a select board member on the board, what is the purpose of having 2 additional members that are also nominated by the select board? What do people see as the advantage of that versus any potential disadvantages? I'm sure we had this discussion on the 4th, and I'm struggling to remember a little bit, but knowing the risks potentially of dividing up the process among different bodies, what do we gain?
I'm reading that differently. I'm reading that when we say 2 members appointed by the select board, one of whom will be a member of the select board and the other from the public at large, not 3.
That's not the way it reads right now. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
not the way
currently
it reads
3.
with the amendment we just made.
Yeah, so that would switch it to 4 and 4 from the committee, but I don't.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
yeah, we had this discussion. It may have been just the select board, but I think initially, my biggest fear with this whole entity is that the town loses control of it. And I have seen several entities like this created, and they end up, because they're self-propagating, continuing on in a direction that is counter to the desires of the town through the select board. And so I don't see this as a long-term, having the select board nominate individuals for it. But I think initially it almost has to be to ease my fear that we end up losing control.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you for reminding me.
yeah, and that's kind of how I feel as well. Go ahead, Sandy, although I'd like to just take 1 second. We're talking about 7 members total, right? And currently, as written, it's 1 nominated by the librarian, right? One select board member and 3 from the select board, or somebody help me. I'm not adding.
2,
And 3 from the facilities committee?
Yeah.
And that's 7. Okay, and so what we just talked about in the amendment was flipping the 2 and the 3.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. That was how I was looking at it. But Gabe, back to your answer. Oh, Sandy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I understand Jeff and everyone about control, and I get it. I'm more concerned about who are the people on this board and what skills and ideas and money, I'm going to say that, they bring. Because a board of directors has to be very committed to the mission. And then you need to have people who are visionary and who have accounting and entrepreneurship skills. That's why I brought up the idea of a nominating committee, because it's not just, who we know. And I mean, we have to really be proactive about finding people who are good at marketing and management and things and construction, things that we would want on a 7-member board of directors. And it doesn't matter to me if you guys, the select board, nominates them or I think it's really about trying to be very active, finding the right people that are going to be really committed to the project. So that's my idea about the nominating committee.
And I like the nominating committee idea, but I think that's the process for making the nomination. I expect that the select board, before they make their nominations, are going to turn to anybody they can to say, okay, what kind of people do we want on it and who's willing to serve? And I would expect your committee, who's going to nominate 3 of them, to do the same thing. But that's the process that you use to create your nomination. And it wouldn't bother me at all if we said, here are the 7 seats, and this is what we'd like to have in each one of the seats, so that we all know what we're looking for to fill.
Right.
So I think it's a process that runs together, and maybe the select board and your committee, we all sit down and do exactly that as
Right.
a nominating committee.
I think
but I don't see it in the bylaws.
Yeah, my fear is we're complicating this with the nominating committee. I do agree. I think Gabe's description was perfect. We don't want this done in silos, but I think we can get together. Hopefully we can get together and have a discussion between the facilities committee, the librarian, and the select board, and kind of hash out, if you will, who it's going to be. And then I think by creating another committee just complicates it. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just
I
my
think
thought.
in my mind, it could be informal in that way and it would achieve the same effect. That was more about getting everybody in the room in my mind. And I think that's good.
Right.
And once you do it informally that way, it becomes the formal process. So.
Well, I have been working a little bit on a matrix of, characteristics of people we would like to have. And I'd love to be able to, at some point, have that conversation with a group of people, thinking about, where we need some expertise and where we need some skill sets that go across different, whether it's construction or databases or things like that, because it's a big fundraising project. So I think we really need to be careful on who's on this board.
I agree with you. And having said that, I like the idea of us getting together in the silo and not doing it in the silo, as Gabe said. I do think, though, that in the end, when push comes to shove, the select board have 2 nominees and the facilities committee have 3. And I think the whole purpose of that is to kind of spread out, or for lack of a better word, I I don't want to use the word power share, that's not the right word, but I think if there is a conflict, and the conflicts do develop in these types of organizations, you know, we're gonna have what we have in terms of who nominates who, so, but I like the idea as proposed.
All right.
Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Number, Article 3, number 2. I think.
B.
Oh, B,
Why was,
B, all right, B, yeah.
was that was covered up above, I take it, or? I don't even remember that being in there.
Do I see?
So
Mine just-
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I don't see, I'm not seeing a B on the. one
No,
that I have.
that's new. The B is new, I think. Or no, there's no B now, right?
The B is gone, I think.
The B is gone, yeah.
I don't remember it being in there in the first place.
Well, I
Yes, it
think
was.
it's included. Oh,
Yeah, you notice it's in blue and then struck out. So I think somebody, after we got the draft from Kristen, somebody reviewed it and added that, and then somebody else took it out. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, it was in the 427 draft.
It was.
Yeah, now that I'm looking. I just sort of missed it, but is it covered up above?
Yeah.
It's included up above and under A, director who is a member of the select board as nominated from its membership. In the middle of that paragraph, it's there.
Why
Yeah,
am I
it is.
not-
It is. They just consolidated it.
Yeah.
It's in blue if you look at the,
Okay, it's on the other. It's not on
yeah,
the
it's
other
just,
page,
it's just part of A now and it's half on the other page, exactly.
right, but it's no longer, this one said the select board can do it, but it's not required. Now it seems as though it has to be. There is a change in the language. But I'm good with it, if everybody else is.
Seems
Yeah.
good.
Good.
I think Walter felt strongly that there should be a select board member, very strongly, if I remember, so. Quorum, any issues?
Nope.
Annual meeting,
No, no,
That seems fine.
not that it's a big deal, but why, I wonder why it has to be approved by the select board. I mean, I don't have an issue with that, but if the idea was to sort of separate this a little, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess now that you mention it, that seems a little bit clumsy.
It does.
Is there a comment on that in the red line copy? There isn't. So maybe as if there are no objections, that could be struck. Knowing that there's a select board member who's on the committee and so on the board, so there'll certainly be a representative of the select board present at any meeting. That seems, go ahead.
I wonder if it was just supposed to say board, meaning a board of directors.
Yeah, that could be.
Hey, if this board is gonna hold an annual meeting, they would wanna have some say on when it was gonna be, not just leave it to the president, but. Thoughts?
Practically, there would have to be input because obviously not everyone is available all the time.
I mean, I'm willing to move on if.
Yeah, let's move on. I don't have an opinion at this point either.
Okay, that's fine.
Thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's assumed that it's the board and for some reason they put in, it might be because to get approval for the time and the location from the select board, but I think I agree with everybody else. We ought to strike from with that whole sentence that includes select board.
Walter?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna strike the words with approval of such proposed time and place by the select board. Any major heartburn for you, Sandy?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Great.
Okay. Two, well, it's not two, it's, I guess it's continuation of three. It seems though there's a formatting problem there.
It's meetings is number 4 now, and the
Meetings is number 4. Yes. the
yeah, if
board.
you toggle, it is a formatting thing, but if you click off the track changes, it shows up as number 4.
Okay, because on mine, it's number clearly the two struck out.
Yeah, no, it is confusing when you're looking at the full red line.
Any issues?
No,
No, it's fine.
Number, well, I don't know what it is.
5, open meetings and records is pretty much by the book, I think. That's basic board.
Yeah, but it's not really, it is 5.
It's 5,
Open-
yeah.
Open
5
meeting,
is open meetings. And it's fine with me.
All right, and then is, go ahead, sorry.
I'm not sure if it belongs in the bylaws, but I would suggest that every member of the board go to training.
Yeah, that's probably would be beneficial, but I agree it probably doesn't need to be in the bylaws.
You can do it on the web, as I recall, so it's not a big deal.
well, I think it's probably good under the circumstances that we want everything to be as open as possible.
Okay, number 5, that says 5 in red.
Number 6 is notice. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, actually, 6 is meetings by remote communications technology, right?
That's 5.
Oh yeah, in my copy, it's mashed into the same paragraph for some reason.
Oh, all right.
But it should be 6 and then agree.
Okay, but I'm talking about, let's forget the number, where it says meetings by remote communications and technology,
Okay, that's
Yep.
now 6.
which I guess would be 6. But it's labeled as 5. But okay, any issues?
No,
No, it seems fine.
Okay, the next one says notice. I'd like to see 3 days 5, just because that's a tradition around here.
yeah, I wondered about that. Mm,
Yeah, 5 is fine.
5 is
Not
good.
required. Okay. Anything with the below?
Okay, where are we now? Where it's still at meetings?
We're in
Notice.
notice.
Notice, okay,
Changed it 3 to 5. And then I
Right.
asked it. else.
Yep, that's the only change that I see.
Sandy?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine with me.
Okay, Jeff? You're good? Okay. The next one is, I don't know what number it is, but it's resignation, removal, and vacancies.
Yeah, I got some big problems here. Resignation, removal and vacancies as Article 3, number 8 is also revisited under Article 4, number 5, but the wording is very different in those two categories. And I think the wording in Article 4, number 5 makes more sense than Article 3, number 8.
Those are covering different
Article 4 is
positions. That's a board member being removed as an officer, but remaining as a board member. Whereas the previous one is someone being removed from the board.
right.
So it is a different situation, but I don't necessarily think that invalidates what you're talking about, Sandy. That's a clarification.
Yeah, Article 4 is governing officers.
Okay, so you're talking about the board of directors in the first one, which is the 7 people, as opposed to the 3 officers that are required. Is that-
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Okay, so then let me go to Article 3, number 8, which I find the sentence that says a director may be removed with or without reason by the person or group that nominated such person to the seat by delivering written notice, blah, blah, blah. Unless the resignation is effective immediately. So that means, like, if we go back to who's nominating, we've got the select board nominating 2, our committee nominating 3, the director of the library nominating 1. So I don't know, the imbalance of that in terms of removal seems a little strange. So, the director of the library could say, you need to leave now, no reason required. And then another appointment. I find that a very strange scenario. If somebody can clarify that for me, I'd be really happy, but I'm not happy with that right now.
I'm not clear which one you're talking about. Are you talking, have you jumped to?
I'm talking about Article 3, number 8, resignation, removal, and vacancies. A director, okay, so one of the board of directors may be removed with or without reason, which is pretty interesting, all by itself, by the person or group that nominated such person to the seat by delivering written notice to such director and to the other members of the board. The resignation or removal shall be effective when the notice is delivered. So if we're saying that certain groups can nominate one, and I don't know, it's a funny paragraph there, and if somebody could help me with that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, I'm just taking a second to grasp it. So other thoughts? Jeff, anything?
I mean, I guess it preserves, sorry. Did Jeff, you're gonna say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're thinking the same thing. If for some reason you nominate somebody to the board of directors and they get on there and a year later, they start acting contrary to the nominator's best interests. And so for the select board, they start acting contrary to what the select board would like them to do. It leaves the select board with the opportunity to remove that individual. I think the without reason is legalese so that you don't get in trouble. What it's saying is that there's that you serve at the pleasure of whoever nominated you. So I think that's the reason for that part of it. And I'm not real comfortable with for any reason, but I can think of reasons why you would want to pull somebody off of there. I mean, there's any number of things, they commit a felon, they move out of state, they decide they're going to start voting in Owl's Head. So, and what this is saying is you can do that without articulating what the reason is.
And I think that's important. I don't want to get stuck in a cause thing. I mean, that just sends you, if it gets nasty, the next thing you know, you're in court. And if it's clear that you just serve at the pleasure, then that's it. And, and I don't want it to get into a public trial about, whether someone did do something that was this, that, and they deserve this. I agree with you. I think it's in there to make it clear that you just serve at the pleasure of whoever nominated you, and, you know, and you can go just as easy. So I actually like that part. Walter, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I can't think of a way to do it differently that would make it better. The one thing that this, I think the one scenario that this doesn't cover is if the 3 or 4, however we settled on, members of the facilities committee think that the select board nominee is running counter, what's their recourse?
They could come to the select board and advocate that the select board remove that
Right,
person.
so, as we just did in Owl's End, by the way. So, that's fresh in my mind, that the transfer station board can't fire a member, but it can suspend the member and then go to the select board and have the person removed. So,
Well, under this language, you could do that. As written.
yeah.
Truth be known, I actually like it. But I know it sounds harsh, but having dealt with lots of personnel issues and trying to balance that with the open meeting laws and what things that are gonna be done in public, it gets difficult. And if you can just say to someone, sorry, this isn't working out, then you don't tarnish their reputation, so to speak. You know, it's by proving that they did something, or, you know, it takes a lot of the mess away, is in my opinion. But
Well, I guess I'm still not comfortable, because if we think about it as a nominating committee, if that's, you know, loosely what we're talking about, then it's not just one group of people like our committee or the librarian or the select board that's saying, you got to go, you know, we want you to go. It's the committee. And that's why I like the language, even though you're telling me it's different in Article 4, number 5, which is about, it's about the officers. It seems more, it seems less personal or something. To any officer may resign or any officer may be removed with or without reason. I'm okay with that, by a majority vote of the board. It seems like a more, I don't know, democratic wording than one group of people who nominated, or one person who nominated, being able to say, I don't want you, you got to go. So it's, I don't know, it just, the language doesn't feel right to me.
well, to me, the key difference is the offices are sort of working for the board, if you will, whereas the directives are, I don't want to say working for, but they're sort of representing the body that's not, for lack of a better word. So I see a key, big difference there. But
I would agree with the difference. I wonder if we can find out whether Kristen wrote this or Emily White wrote this and asked them why they settled on this. I mean, I can assume that they were re-empowering or reinforcing the power of the nominators.
I think so. I guess I have one follow-up question, which is, you know, once this organization is up and running and it has a functional board, does that board have to just accept whoever the nominator sort of throws at them to replace the person who was removed? Or is there a way that the board gets to vote on who joins them? Rather than saying they need to be voting on whether or not that person is removed, maybe they could at least have a say on who follows.
I don't think it's currently written that the board does.
No, it isn't, but I was just asking.
Oh, I thought you were asking if it currently.
No, I was asking if it should be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know, that's a whole other conversation, but,
True. And again, so the bylaws also can be amended in the future. So that's, it might, that situation feels like a fairly, where I'd like to believe it is a fairly remote possibility, at least in the near term. So maybe it's kind of moot, but I do think there's going to be some question of, what authority the board has over its own composition going forward in the longer term.
so
And that doesn't-
actually,
Go on.
going back here, it's the incorporator who actually makes the appointment.
Yeah.
Well, even no, because the vacancy is filled in the same manner, right?
Oh, if you stretch same manner.
The same
it
manner,
comes back to the incorporator,
Yeah.
you're right.
So the way I'm envisioning this happening as currently written is, say it's the select board. The select board nominates someone and the incorporator can or cannot appoint that person. Now, they can't reach around and appoint someone else. But they could say, no, we're not gonna appoint that person. Then I guess in theory, the select board, in this case, the select board would have to nominate someone else. I mean, I think that's the way it's written. I'm not sure we want it that way, but.
Right. Right. So that sort of is just about, that person or that, it's not about what we need as a board, the skills that we need on the board, so that person, we don't want, somebody says, no, we don't accept you, but who are we replacing that with? Does that same person, that next person have the same marketing skills or the same fundraising skills? Or, it's really about the composition of the board as far as I'm concerned. We don't want 3 people that are good in construction and nobody that knows how to run fundraising, capital campaigns. So, I mean, it's really a tricky situation of maybe not tricky, but we want to have a really diverse board with multiple levels of skills. And I don't see in this case, this seems to be at odds with that for me.
Well, we got 2 conversations here going. We got one going about removal, and we got one going about filling vacancies. So go ahead.
So
We got,
getting back to the same manner. So Kristen is the incorporator.
yeah,
So Kristen becomes no longer the attorney for the town of South Thomas.
yeah,
As a matter of fact, she moves to California.
right.
That dog doesn't hunt.
Yeah, or she dies.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I actually have no problem personally with vacancies being approved by the board, as long as it's clear, not the select board, but the board, as long as it's clear that the board can't reach around. And so I'm gonna give you an example. The board nominates Terry. So the select board nominates Terry. The facilities, this director's board says, no, we don't want Terry. And you'll be very happy if they said to do it. So, but then the board of directors can't reach around and pick Walter. It comes back to the select board for a second nomination. That's how I see it. If we change it. You can only appoint somebody who's nominated. You can't you can't reject the nomination and then appoint somebody else.
That seems fine.
Are
To
you
me.
okay? Because I think there's a lot of practical problems with the vacancies being filled by the incorporated. Now, maybe we'll talk to Christian and she'll say, no, if I move to California, the incorporated gets changed, and I don't know. But as a policy question, I mean, I think a lot of nonprofit boards appoint their own members when there's vacancies.
Yeah, they do.
And I thought the draft we had before did that for any future appointments, that Kristen would do the initial appointments, but then after that, it was going to be done by the board.
Which board? The board of directors.
Correct, the board of directors. And I don't remember if it was the president or by a vote of the board, but I could have sworn that previous one had it changed.
No, it says vacancies shall be filled by an appointment in the same manner in which the direction was initially appointed and for the duration of the term. Does this say for the duration of the term?
Yeah. That's what I have, yeah.
So do we want to propose taking the vacancy, or I guess the subsequent appointment subsequent to the initial appointment, so I guess that covers that, as being made by the board of directors, but following the same nomination practice. Is that what I'm hearing?
That seems fair to me.
Yeah,
I
I
will-
like that. I like that better. Yeah,
I do want to, we'll talk to Christian about that, but
of course.
Yeah, because I think the incorporator is there at the beginning, but that once it's incorporated, I don't see where they even have a role to play.
that's my impression too, so. Okay, now back to the original question, which is the removal. Personally, I'm happy with it, just the way it is. I know it sounds harsh, but based on my,
I'm okay with the removal of somebody, that's fine. It was how it was going to be handled after removal that I was concerned about.
oh, I thought initially you said you had a problem with the removal, so you thought it.
No, it's a little harsh, but I agree. Sometimes you have to do that, but I was concerned about how things were going to be, how people were going to be replaced more than I was about the removal. So I'm okay. I'm okay, John.
So we're all good to move on? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Offices. 1,
Fine,
2,
good.
3. We want to let the treasurer serve without bond. That's a big question for me.
I didn't hear it.
This says the directors can let the treasurer serve without a bond. I know they're expensive, but when somebody walks away with $100,000.
Do you want to question Kristen about that, Kristen?
It's a policy question.
I don't know about it, so.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion either.
Insurance. If you have a treasurer who flies to Cayman with a $200,000 in her pocket, the bond company will reimburse you. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it.
Yeah, but it's without bond unless required by a vote of the board of directors. So I would suspect during that first meeting that Kirsten will facilitate as the incorporator. One of the things on the agenda is, do we require a bond?
Well, and I don't really think you need any until you have any money.
Right. That's exactly right. So I'm happy with it the way it is.
All right.
Although if I were on the board, as soon as we had money, I would bond it. So.
I mean, we all have read locally about people who just, you
Yeah,
think they're the great off of the earth.
I'm curious about, like I'm a part of a 501c3, but we only raise like $25,000 a year, so it's like not a big deal. It's money in, money out, all the time. But at what point does it become necessary to be bonded? So that would be a question I would have. That's a good question.
Okay, 4, 5.
It's fine.
Fine here.
6.
Good.
6.
Yep, good.
Now, I just want to make a comment here, that does, officers shall serve without compensation. That's addressed in another place too. I think it says director shall. But to my way of thinking, that doesn't prevent this group from hiring, say, a grant writer or someone probably because of an employee, because all of a sudden now you're talking about work comp and blah, 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 but on a contract basis or something.
Yeah, no, I think I agree.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's on the same
Yeah,
page.
no, because the
Got it.
board does need that authority to hire out certain specific types of work. But I agree that it's not prohibited by this.
7, well, I don't know if it's 7 or not.
7's by the book, yeah.
Struck out 7. In terms of duration, we good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 5-1. 5-2. Striking number 1 under 6, or striking 6, actually.
Yeah, number
Yeah.
6, annual
Yeah, it
meeting.
goes straight from 5 to 7.
Huh?
Yep, that's fine.
It's fine with me.
That was actually just moved, right, to the board of directors section.
No, the annual meeting, yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
before, it's gonna be with members or something. But the members are going, okay. So I guess it's the new Article 6, labeled
Yes.
Article. And we still have not, and we had a question, according to my notes, about should that last article be the town, which means that last word in number 1 be the town or be the select board?
In my opinion, it should be the select board.
I think Christian's gonna say it's gotta be town meeting, but, but I'd like to ask that question, because we had the conversation at the last, before, several people asked that. But generally, as a rule, when a document says the town, that means town meeting.
Yeah, I think for us, it's clearer if we put select board, but I think that authorized by the town is our normal, they normally authorize us anyway. So I think that we've already got that authorization from the town. Gives us
Christian and
the
MMA don't seem to have a lot of faith in that article.
yeah, I know.
I disagree. I mean, because as a practical matter, anytime everyone donated $10, would have to go to town meeting to spend it.
Exactly. So I would prefer it say select board, but it doesn't bother me at all if she leaves it as town.
As long as we remember to put that article in every town meeting.
Yeah, but even then, she says,
Yes, I know.
I mean, and people do it all over the state everywhere, they don't even have that article. They spend donations, Okay. Oh, what happened?
7/2 fiscal year.
Yep, I looked the wrong way. Okay, fiscal year 7/2, we're good. Fundraising. I gotta take a second I don't remember this. I gotta take a second to read it. Okay, so this is a major change from the original because and I understand why, it strips their requirement that they have to turn over the money to the town. And I'm sure it's because they're afraid that really written, it would jeopardize or potentially jeopardize the 501(c) status. I'm okay with it, as long as you're bonded.
Yeah, I think that's fine as well.
Yeah, I think it's fine too. I mean, you probably are raising money as you need to spend money, not raising extra huge sums of money that are not being allocated. So I think if I read this correctly, it seems like, we're raising $50,000 for something or $100,000 for something, and then I don't know. I think it's fine the way it is the way I read it.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's fine. The reason I liked the other way is because from the very beginning, we said this entity is a fundraising entity. It is not an expenditure entity. So the actual expenses, except for the reasonable operating expenses and admin support, and arguably things you do for publicizing it and that. But other than that, it's not going to be spent by this entity. It's going to be spent by the town. So
Right.
So
We go in and pay a backhoe operator to dig a cellar hole, that the town is gonna contract with that person. But then this group could reimburse the town for that cost, is the way I see it.
correct. And so this does not prohibit them from turning money over to the town for the project. It just means that they're keeping the money until it's expended.
I did kind of make a joke when I said as long as you bonded, but that was not tongue in cheek. I didn't mean that. I don't mean you, I mean the board of directors.
Yep.
And I can see this entity, hopefully this entity is going to end up with several $1 million that is not immediately being spent, right? It's going to be held until the building's built. Until we start construction. So I think it could very well be a large amount of money that's being held by this corporation.
I don't think it'll be a couple $1 million, but I do think you're going to be looking at some large, hopefully you're looking at some very large grants from foundations, and you might be looking at and conversely, you might be looking at pledges given over 5 years. So, from hopefully large donors, they're not going to be giving it all at once. They're going to be giving it in chunks. So, that's why we need a financial person that really can keep track of all that, because there's going to be money coming in that isn't spent immediately. And then there'll be money coming in that will be, kind of repeating itself over each of a number of years. That's sort of what I'm imagining. But yeah, you're going to need a chunk of money to get going for sure. So $1 million, half the money has to be raised, I think, before you can really get going.
Yeah, the thing is, though, we're not going to tear down the existing building and start construction until we have enough money to pay for a new building. So that money is either going to reside in the town or in the entity. And right now they're going to put it in the entity. So if we look at it and say this building is going to cost us $2.5 million, then we need a promise of $2.5 million or money on hand to start the project portion of it.
Right.
So I see this entity holding a very large amount of money.
It could be half.
It could be for a couple of years.
I think half. Yeah. They could be holding half and pledges that get us very close to the final amount for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, with that,
I think we're talking about the same thing, Jeff, actually.
I think we're good.
Yep, I think it's fine.
Identification. Moving
Good.
on. Dissolution.
Yep.
I know quite a bit of talk about that. All right, I guess everyone's good with that.
Mhm.
Okay. Was there a question? No. Amendments?
Yeah, it
Good.
seems fine.
So again, the way I understand this, I'm just gonna make a comment on it, is the board can propose amendments, they have to come to the select board to be approved, but the select board cannot make amendments. They can only act upon proposed amendments that are brought to them by the board of directors. That's how I'm reading this.
That's how I understand it as well. And I also think that's appropriate.
Okay,
Agreed.
all right, I think we're done, unless somebody's got something extra.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I do want to add on that one paragraph on the dissolving of the dissolution, that did kind of change from the original. The original was, once the project's complete, then the select board can say, we're done, dissolve. Now it's pretty open-ended. The select board can vote to dissolve it, and it doesn't have cause or reason, or so. Just so you realize that there was a significant change in that.
Wait a minute. Right. Let me read it again really quickly.
Walter?
But it seems to me that the dissolution starts with the corporation, not with the select board.
Yeah,
Except that's not what it says.
Dissolution of the corporation shall be immediately commenced upon by a vote of, by the board.
After receiving.
So the select board, well, the select board has to approve the dissolution. I don't think the select board can initiate the dissolution.
But if they can only commence a dissolution after approval by the select board, something seems.
If what I'm worried about.
that,
is
I think,
select board that don't agree with the whole concept and just dissolves the corporation.
yeah, that, I think that's, John, it just means that in my mind, it just means that the corporation can't dissolve itself without the approval of the select board.
Seems though they got the reverse order there. I'm gonna talk to her about it. It just seems as though it's out of order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
I think it is in
confusing.
order. I think it is in order. One of two
After,
things happens. Either they raise enough money to accomplish the project, or they don't. And either one of those things happen, the select board is going to know first, hopefully, and they will say, okay, you're done. Your mission is complete, dissolve. Then and then the board dissolves.
yeah, I
The
guess.
select board cannot dissolve the board. It has to dissolve itself.
Right. Okay, so, yeah, I'm with you.
The previous one, though, only allowed us to request they dissolve after the project was complete. It had met its goals. But if my question the whole time was, what if it doesn't? What if we go 20 years and we raise a third of what we need? At some point, we've got to say, we're done with this. We're going to go in a different direction. So this does give us that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's better, personally.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I
fine.
got it. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
you don't want to do this for 20 years? All right, we got other business. You guys are welcome to stay. You certainly don't have to.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much for the time. It's great.
So what I'm gonna do is, I'll call Kristen, kind of go over the couple open questions that we had, and probably shoot people an email back. That work?
Sounds good.
And, we may have to do another fine tune or something, but hopefully we're there. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
That was productive, I thought. All right, we're done with the fire trucks. Walter, you got the answer to the question on the comma?
Yeah.
So Terry, you're all set with that?
I put it in, didn't
I don't know.
I? I can't remember where it was.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yes,
To the header.
town of Owlshead, Thomas, South Thomaston, Thomaston.
Yeah, went back to Jeff's original articles of incorporation.
Where's my warrant? Let me pack this.
Do you need another one, John?
No, let me pack this up. And. Okay, and you double check the numbers? You were gonna do that after the last meeting?
The numbers for,
The
oh,
budget
yes, all
numbers and
these, yeah,
stuff,
I
yeah.
have Phil check them.
Yeah, okay. And are we good with the non-binding article? After I screwed up the first one? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Anything else? The only thing that I propose is, I don't know if we did it 2 years ago or last year, but I like the idea of keeping it a draft in the town report. We always used to sign it and finalize it way ahead. And then that really kind of cut down and shut down our options, because we don't need to post this until 7 days before the meeting. I would like to, since we sort of fell into that, I'd like to keep doing it.
I agree.
Okay, Jeff, you go with
Yeah,
that?
I agree. I agree.
So, and I know it has a watermark draft on it, but I think to be perfectly clear, could we also put it at the top?
Mhm.
And Jeff, I did have one question on your lease. I just realized I made a scribble on the historical lease. And you may say, no, we don't need to do that, but do we want to say something like, we want to look from there and it says substantially in the same form as attached, or something like that, or are we 100% sure that it's every I is dotted and T is crossed? Because I think the way it's written now, it locks us right into exactly what's written.
Yeah, I think it's good. And the other thing is that we've met several times with the Historical Society. So I would hate to make any changes to it without going back to them.
I'm not talking about making a change. I'm just talking about if something came up at town meeting. Well, it's not an ordinance, so I guess we could amend it.
Yeah.
Because it's not an ordinance, so. Okay, I just saw the answer. I was thinking it was in my mind, I was kind of thinking ordinance, you can't change it, but it's not an ordinance.
Right.
So I guess I answered my own question. Although once it's approved, I think we're locked into it.
Yeah, without going back to town meeting.
Yeah, but if you're good with that, I'm
Yes.
okay. Anything else on the town meeting warrant? Terry, anything else you need from us on this?
On the warrant,
On the warrant?
I think the warrant's good.
Huh?
I think the warrant's good.
Okay, you're happy with the warrant?
Do the warrant.
You're not happy with something though. I don't know what it is, but I'm not gonna ask.
I need everybody's reports, I need a cover, I need a dedication.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's some, did you get someone? I am searching.
I asked Jeff and he never replied to me.
I am working on it. So you need to give me a good deadline.
And I'm hoping to
How long
circulate
do
a
you
draft
need?
selectmen's report to you two for markup, review and comment shortly. But for some reason, I'm falling behind.
If I could have everything by Monday, Tuesday at the absolute latest. And that's because that's my wiggle room that I gave you when I said the 20th.
You shouldn't have said that.
Tuesday is it.
And unfortunately, I gotta drive to Logan to pick up
Paulina-
Leslie tomorrow. I
Paulina
gotta
called-
do that.
Paulina called me today. She says, where's your stuff? I said, it's coming, honest.
You can't send her like most of it?
No, she's not doing it that way this year. She wants it on a thumb drive and
Yeah.
she wants hard copies.
Okay,
So,
all right.
So Monday, the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't have to leave till 10. I'm almost done with the first draft of the selectmen's report. I'll try to get up early, send it to you guys. If you guys can get back to me by maybe Friday, Saturday, I can finish that off and get it to you. And that's all I owe you, right?
road commissioner?
Oh, shit.
Down on the bridge?
You know, I can do one to Jerry. Thank you for your support.
Yes. And we haven't really talked about a cover, but I don't know if we want to talk about that.
The cover?
A picture for the cover. I mean, we briefly talked about it, but I don't know if we want to talk about it because it's away.
Yeah, not yet.
I personally say you and Jeff work that out.
Okay.
You good with that?
Sure.
That you're writing the. Since he's writing.
Yeah. Well, it was his idea.
Okay, so I'm absolved of that responsibility. Okay, so but the warrant, you're all set, and we're gonna keep it a draft.
Yeah, I'll put that on top.
So I have the ratio declaration
Yeah.
form to sign, but I don't understand. Is it different from what we had before, or have we answered our question?
You talked to Kevin, right?
I talked to Kevin, yes. Let me see if I can find my notes.
Well, you told me, I thought you told me.
I did
when
tell
was
you,
in
but
here
I
one
can't
day,
remember what I told you.
That Kevin always just signed these because at the
Yes.
state, they just kind of let him do it.
Yes.
That's why we've never seen it before.
Exactly. Yes, that's what he did
And he
tell
does
me.
it for all his towns.
That is true.
Which struck me as very odd, since it clearly says,
Well,
I don't know what else there was.
So it's the signature page, the email and all that.
Yeah, we need a motion though, too.
I move that we approve the certified ratio declaration form as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, further discussion? So Terry, do you wanna fill us in on any more, or is it?
I can read through my notes if I can find them, but I'm.
Basically, basically, you talk to Kevin, it's fine, you trust Kevin,
I do trust Kevin. I do trust Kevin.
and did you, so we're good to go,
Yes. It
and-
basically
and-
tells you how you're gonna be reimbursed for
your homestead.
the homestead
And there is a-
veterans and.
Right, and it doesn't lock anything in, and we're good to go, so. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
I.
Aye, John? And now we gotta execute I need a motion to countersign the RSU 13 warrant notice warrant and notice of election, calling regional school unit number 13 budget validation referendum, and a warrant and notice of election to call regional school unit number 13 referendum.
Move to approve. Those two warrants.
Is there a second?
Second,
This is basically a ministerial act. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jeff, I.
So Jeff, do you want to come in and sign these, or are you still not going? I saw your Jeep at the library, so I thought maybe you were out and about.
I think it only has to be a majority, so
Yeah.
two is good.
Are you good with us signing it?
Yeah, I can come in and sign it. I'm just not driving right now, so the Jeep, Deborah's been driving my Jeep and my son's been driving her car, so.
Okay, that's why I said, oh, Jeff's getting out and about.
I do get out and about, but somebody has to chauffeur me.
And you're gonna follow up with Kristen and Dan?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second,
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, I.
Both aye. Thank you, guys.
Have a good trip
Oh,
tomorrow.
I got one question, John. Are we meeting, our next meeting is,
Next Tuesday, 24th. Terry shot me a draft agenda to get out to you guys today, and I didn't get back to her, so.
okay, so that'll be the public hearing,
Yes.
okay?
And I'll try to get back to Terry and she can get it out to you tomorrow, and you're gonna have to turn it around real quick.
And is that when, what's her name's coming to visit?
And, yeah, and
Matlack. Yeah. Okay,
okay.
because I want to have good notes for her on that. I don't understand. I don't know if you saw what she sent me. Oh, no, this won't even affect our town. I don't know how she can read it, that it's not going to affect our town.
I don't know.
It's
We'll hear
very
from-
confused.
Okay. We're already adjourned. Yeah. All right, well, Jeff, how you doing? You feeling better?
Yeah, I've still got some issues where they cut the chunk of the lung off, so I can't put a lot of pressure on my left arm. The downside is that it did in fact